Members, it's the appointed time and we have a quorum. Welcome to the meeting of the Subcommittee on Revenue, Reduction of Business Registration Fees and Branch Registration Fees Order 2019, First Election of Chairman. Mr. Wilson, I nominate Mr. Stephen Ho, so I have been nominated. Does anyone second? Mr. Vincent Chang, I accept the nomination. Any other nominations? If not, all right, I will preside over the meeting. There's no need to elect a deputy chairman. First, we invite the administration in. We shall invite the administration to walk us through this order before we open up the floor for questions.
好啊，佢陣間講埋得㗎啦。OK。秘書長，你可以簡介下你份文件啦。2019
Deputy Secretary, please walk us through the order and CV brackets 1761/18 to 19 brackets 01. Thank you very much. This paper is rather straightforward. In this year's budget, the Financial Secretary proposed waiver of business registration fees as well as the branch registration fees for 1 year for the 2019 to 20 financial year. With the external economic uncertainties, and the economic sentiments are inferior compared with the previous years, the Financial Secretary has proposed waiver of business registration fees for 1 year. As you know, for businesses operating in Hong Kong, apart from those receiving exemptions such as shoemakers, hawkers, etc., businesses would have to apply for a business registration certificate. Currently, the fee for a 1 year certificate is $2,000 and $5,200 for a 3-year certificate. For branch certificates, the fees are $73 for 1 year and $189 for 3 years, respectively. In order to implement the FS's proposal, for businesses with commencement date between 2019 to 20, the business registration fee would be waived. And as we mentioned in paragraph 5 of the paper, for businesses who have paid $5,200 for a 3-year certificate, we would offer a pro rata refund of $1,600. The order is rather straightforward, and the commencement date would be the 1st of April 2019, and we have listed the payments for reduction as well as the relevant fee levels. We are happy to take questions. Any questions from members? Mr. Vincent Chang. We support the business registration fee waiver because it would certainly benefit businesses under the current environment. I'd like to know the number of waivers granted. I think the number of beneficiaries would be 1.4 million. Many businesses would benefit from the business registration fee waiver, but we have been calling for a waiver of license fees as well because it is a substantial cost for many businesses. So in the next financial year, could we angle for a waiver of license fees as well? Thank you very much. Mr. Chang was correct. If the we expect 1.4 million businesses to benefit from the BR fee waiver. In terms of the business environment, we have considered the current economic conditions in making this proposal. The BR fees have not been raised since 1994. So our consideration is cost recovery only. Mr. Chang. I hope you would consider the proposal on license fees as well. Mr. Lai, you did not you did not address the question. Well, I was referring to licenses such as hawker licenses. In this year's budget, the FS proposed waiver of business registration fees. This is not a regular measure. It was proposed in light of public finance and the economic conditions. The last waiver was granted in 2016 to 17. And hawker license fees were waived 2 years ago. And at that time, waivers were also granted for hotels and restaurants. And at that time, Hong Kong's tourism plummeted and the number of visitors also came down. And with the Occupy Central movement at the time, the many businesses, including restaurants and hawkers, were affected. That's why we made that decision. In 2018, we saw that the overall business sentiments and visitor arrivals were ideal, and as such, the waivers were no longer proposed in the current budget. But we understand Mr. Chang's concern, so when the FS prepares his budget every year, we will assess the actual circumstances in the proposed measures. The license, well, a license fee waiver would benefit many people, not just those from the tourism trade. Thank you very much. Now it's my turn. So I will be more upfront. I am not satisfied about Mr. Lai's answer. You talked about the Occupy Central movement, poor retail sentiments a few years ago. That's why you offered license fee waivers for hawkers. And you said that since Hong Kong might be affected by external economic conditions, you decided to waive the BR fees but not license fees. So among the 1.4 million businesses who can benefit, so do they include licenses for tourism businesses? Given the economic conditions we face in the coming year, I expect that the hawker trade as well as other trades might be affected, and they might not see growth in their businesses. So why don't you offer waivers for these businesses as well? I would not stand against the BR fee waiver. But this might be a measure born out of convenience. So I do not quite understand your logic if you want to benefit all businesses. After Typhoon Mangkhut last year, many stores were destroyed. 130 vessels were destroyed last year. We asked for a waiver in the vessel license fees, but you you denied the wish, and now you are waiving the BR fees for all businesses. So I'd like to know your priorities and the logic behind your decision. I understand such concerns. The BR fee waiver is a catch-all measure. It would benefit all 1.4 million businesses. So it would somewhat help all these businesses. Like the chairman said, these businesses offer all kinds of services and no one will be excluded. For hawker licenses or fishermen and farmers affected by the typhoon last year, can the government offer some assistance in terms of the license fees? We are aware of such calls. But in the current budget, we decided to provide a catch-all benefit to all businesses in Hong Kong. Last year's budget offered specific help to certain people or businesses, and later the government implemented additional measures because they found that some people could not benefit from the so-called sweeteners, and that's why we had the $4,000 cash handout. The BR fee waiver will exclude some parties, including hawkers, fishermen, etc. So last year, an additional measure was rolled out. Regardless of whether the public welcomed the move, at the end, $4,000 were dispersed to the people, and it showed the government's commitment. You said you have heard people's views, but you still opted for the simplest solution, and you did not do anything. So what are the plans of the SAR government? So are you asking the three of us here to continue to make requests while the government will continue to do nothing? We understand your concern. Ahead of the budget every year, the FS would assess the financial position of the government as well as the economic sentiments. We will certainly convey your views. A few years ago, for license fee waivers, we offered waivers to some businesses, but this year we offered a catch-all benefit, that is the BR fee waiver. And Mr. Ho and Mr. Chang might find this less than satisfactory. We are aware of such views, and we will convey these views so that in the future, for future budgets, we can come up with better solutions. Well, we need to know the government's stance. You must specifically let the people know what the government's stance is. You cannot change all the time. Well, a few years ago, we had the legal Occupy Central movement. Roads were occupied, and some people asked why you only offered license fee waivers for hawkers, hotels, and restaurants. What about the fishing licenses or fishermen licenses? Well, the restaurants had no business, and as such, no one would order fish, and the fishermen saw a lot of their fish die because of typhoons. So you should look at the big picture and offer adequate help. I don't need you to give $10,000 to everyone, but for people who are affected, they must receive support from the government. We support the BRF waiver, but this waiver does not benefit some people, and these are people who were affected and they are not being taken care of, just like the $4,000 handout last year.
傾咧。
So you say you will relate our, requests back to the relevant bureau. Together with Mr. Cheng and Mr. Oh, we do not agree with the government's inconsistent approach every time it prepares the budget. Most importantly, there is a gap or you had measures to fill the gap, but we don't have this year. So how can the public expect a new budget? And also in future, how are we going to vet your future budgets? I hope you understand this point. All right, I will not make things difficult for you any further. Do you have anything else by way of response? Thank you. We'll certainly relay your views back to the FS for consideration. Well, I think that's yeah. Thank you. The revenue bracket reduction of business registration fees and branch in registration fees. It's very simple. There are four sections. First of all, commencement, which is April 1st, 2019. Interpretation, you have the interpretation for branch registration certificate, branch registration fee, business registration certificate, and to also stipulate that the concession period will mean the period of 12 months beginning April 1st. And then on subsection 3, reduction of business registration fees. In other words, the waiver will be to the amount of $2,000, and for branch registration fee, it's $73. Any more questions? I have just one more simple question. I think this is something that we do once every 2 years, right? Basically, there's not much difference, but we've taken a further step this time. In the past, for companies which have paid the 3-year business registration fee, they would need to apply before they will get a refund. But this time, if certain companies have already paid a 3-year registration fee, the IRD will, starting from July this year, refund them for the amount equivalent to 1 year of registration fee for 1 year. I think we've already accounted for that in paragraph 5 of the paper. According to the order, you say, so you're saying that the business registration fee payable in relation to a business registration certificate that is with the date of commencement that falls within the concession period is reduced by $2,000, and also the business registration fee payable under Section 5A1A in relation to an incorporation submission made within the period is reduced to $2,000. But I don't see the number $1,600. Chairman, your observation is correct. This order deals with the waiver of the 2019-2020 business registration fee. But in paragraph 4 of the paper, we have also explained that for those firms which already paid a 3-year registration fee, we will, in accordance with Public Finance Ordinance 39, Section 39, refund these companies with the fees that they have already paid by way of the Public Finance Ordinance. So this is the mechanism for the refund. Are you absolutely sure that you have that authority to do that? Yeah, I think could you give us a paper to explain this further to us? Yeah. Anything else from members? If not, then I think we can wrap up our meeting, and I don't think we need to convene a public hearing. So if there are no further views, that means so. So in other words, if there's nothing else, the expiry of the scrutiny period is April the 17th, and we will need to report to the House on March the 29th, and I don't think there will be any amendments. So, well, no deadline for notice of amendment is 5 clear days, and I don't think we need to do that. Okay, if there's nothing else, thank you very much. With that, we may now adjourn. Thank you.
我都要問下大家。